Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to another Friday update. And I will begin this week by reminding you that we do have an upcoming event in Paris on October the 16th, 17th, and 18th, and I assure you Catherine Rossi and her team will do a spectacular job. If it's physically possible for you to get there, please do so. I can assure you it will be a weekend well spent and one remembered the rest of your gin life. Also, we have a new Patenaude Power UP series. So again, go onto the website, locate that. You can listen to Sifu Stefan espousing more of his wisdom and sharing with this club in a way that only he does. And we're so thankful that he is a part of what happens in your experience in the Global Information Network. Next, I would like to remind you that we've had several requests on people who are re-engaging or rejoining the club, and where do they go and how are they placed and how do they get back to their sponsor, or what do they do? And so if I can answer this question for the masses, it makes it much easier on the staff back at headquarters rather than having to answer these individual questions. So the scenario is, as you re-engage inside the world of gin, you will go back to your original sponsor if they are still in the club. And the reason for that is because they did the work. They invited you, they thought enough of you to get you into the club at some point in time. And so we always want to reward those who do the work. It's really quite that simple. That does not mean that you can't work with other people inside the club, or maybe you've struck up a friendship with someone else that's new to the club, or that wasn't in the club when you were there, or whatever the circumstance is. There is nothing in our code of conduct that says you can't work with anyone inside this club. As a matter of fact, we have many members who devote time, energy, and effort to helping other members learn the ins and outs of the club and how to study and how to be a part of that mastermind. So you can work with anyone inside the club. That's just the way the sponsorship scenario works inside the Global Information Network. And even to the point where, please plug into the virtual chapter meetings that we're having. Again, you can go on the website, you can get registered for those, you can attend several of those. They're on a regular basis, and we're having spectacular results and great feedback from virtually each of those. And they are available in English and in French and in German and in Spanish. So find what fits for you and enjoy. And we're thrilled for your journey inside the world of the Global Information Network. This week, the lesson I would like to talk about, I'd like to continue a little bit about the law of success in 16 lessons. This is lesson 9. I talked about it last week, and this is the second piece of that lesson. And it is such great material. This to me really hits home and is one of the most important, of course they're all important, but one of the most important psychological aspects to get. It's a way in which you think, in a way in which you be, in a way in which you act, in a way in which you do. And this just becomes a part of your fiber once you get these concepts. And we were talking about doing more than you're paid for, is the particular chapter in the lesson. Do more than you're paid for. And that applies to all aspects of your life. It's do a little more. And I talked about that last week, so please go back and review that if you've not seen that. I think you'll gain a foundation for what I'm going to talk about today. Because the two main benefits of utilizing that concept are, number one, you get a greater material gain than those who do not utilize these principles. So please utilize these principles. You will enjoy greater success. You see, material gain, it's the same concept as spiritual gain. It's all a matter of gain. It's all a matter of building that foundation, understanding how you send and receive, and understanding how it works. The second aspect of that is the happiness and the satisfaction that you receive from providing your service, whatever that service is. And again, this not only applies to business, but it applies to your relationships and applies to your spirituality. These lessons can be applied to every aspect of your life, virtually every aspect of your life. So it's the happiness and the satisfaction that you receive is so much greater than just the paycheck that you get in an envelope or that you get directly deposited for you. This is where you build that self-worth. And as a matter of fact, there are a couple of pages and quotes that I want to share with you because they really sum it up in a great way. And I believe that this will help you to understand the philosophy, if you will, behind this concept of the law of increasing returns. And in this book, Napoleon Hill talks about, he makes a reference to a book that is written, and the book is Every Man His Own University, and of course it's by Russell H. Conwell. And there's an excerpt here that I want to share with you because this is how important Napoleon Hill thought this concept was. He said when his wife brought him this book and he read it, he thought he should recommend to everyone that they read this book. And then he rethought. And he said, no, this isn't the kind of book that you just read. I'm going to recommend that you buy this book and read it 100 times. Now you talk about spaced repetition, and you talk about a new unit of time, and you talk about some of the principles that we refer to often in Gen. Reading a book 100 times. You see, just the psychology behind that is so much greater than when someone says, oh, I read that book, oh, I got that. That doesn't cut it. When someone tells you to read a book 100 times, you should at least read the book. You should make that decision for you. If you want to do it 100 times, at least understand someone who has had this much of a profound impact on so much of humanity, when he makes a recommendation that strong, I would suggest and recommend that you simply follow through with that. One quote in there that he says is, the intellect can be made to look far beyond the range of what men and women ordinarily see. But not all the colleges in the world can alone confer this power. This is the reward of self-culture. Who are you? Self-culture. Each must acquire it for himself, and perhaps this is why the power of observing deeply and widely is so much oftener found in those men and women who have never crossed the threshold of any college but the University of Hard Knocks. Now this statement will mean more as I continue, because he's talking about people who never crossed the threshold of a university. Read that book as a part of this lesson because it will prepare you to profit by the philosophy and the psychology upon which this lesson is built. And the lesson refers to the law of increasing returns, and quite simply, he gives a couple of great analogies about planting a seed. You till the soil, you make sure that you're going to irrigate it, you're going to have it in a place where there's enough sunlight, all of the required elements for the successful growth of a seed. Yet it's the law of increasing returns. It's one in which you plant a single seed so that it grows into many more seeds. If you plant a seed of wheat, a kernel of wheat or a kernel of corn, it's the same concept, and you end up with an ear of corn, look how many more seeds or kernels that you have as a result of planting that seed. You see, if you just planted a kernel of corn and all you got in return was another kernel of corn, what would be the point of planting the corn? You could just consume the kernel of corn. Yet if you will plant that corn and you will nourish that corn and you will water that corn and you will give that corn everything necessary for its survival and its growth, you will end up with many more kernels of corn. This is so true in life. It's so true in every aspect of your life. And he goes on to give several examples. And there are a couple of quotes that I wanted to share with you today because I believe it puts things in perspective. And perspective is so important when we get so caught up in life, we get so caught up in the moment that oftentimes we don't step back. We don't take a breath. We don't take the pause. We don't look at life from the 30,000-foot view and say, is that really important? Is that really going to matter? In 100 years, will it matter what you did today? Will it matter that you got upset or that you were happy or that things did or didn't go your way in that particular conversation? It's about priority. And the quote is, ultimately, nothing matters very much. Don't sweat the small stuff kind of thing. Ultimately, nothing matters very much. The defeat that seems to break your heart today will be but a ripple among the waves of other experiences in the ocean of your life further ahead. Let that sink in for just a moment. Maybe hit rewind on that. Understand that it's another way of saying don't sweat the small stuff, and it's another way of saying that even those things that seem critical today are just another of the stones of the foundation of who you can become and how they will impact the rest of your life. The next one is that no man can rise to fame and fortune without carrying others along with him. It simply cannot be done. And I had the distinct pleasure of observing that and watching that when Sam Walton started a five and dime store when he used to work for Ben Franklin, and he started this new store called Walmart. And he chose to call his employees associates because he wanted them to come along with him. And I have witnessed personally many people who not only became millionaires and multimillionaires, but who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars because they got on that train early and they understood service and they understood doing a little bit more, and they understood return policies, and they did so many fundamental things that were so great to build a company that became the largest retailer in the world here in a small town, that same small town that I referenced last week. You see, it is all possible. It's a matter of building your energy ball and sending out information. And to that point, he closes this chapter with a very important concept. And it is that the next great scientific discovery will be the fact which already exists, that every human brain is a broadcasting and receiving station. That every vibration released by the brain may be picked up and interpreted by all other brains that are in harmony or in tune with the rate of vibration of the broadcasting brain. Let that sink in just a moment. You see, this is why Jen is so critically important to you, because you've found a club of like-minded people, of like vibrating, of like frequency brains, that when you think and you act and you discuss and you plan things, others are on the same page with you. This is why it's so important. You see, I mentioned earlier about Russell Conwell, and some of you may be familiar with that name because he is also the author of Acres of Diamonds, a book on that we recommend inside the world of Jen. And the most famous quote that he had in that book is that your diamonds are not in far distant mountains or in yonder seas. They are in your own backyard if you but dig them. You see, it's a great story about searching everywhere out there for something that you have right here, because Jen is all around you. Jen is in your backyard. The principles that we have are in your backyard. And Russell went on to found what is now Temple University. And he started that in 1884. And that university now has over 40,000 students who are in undergraduate, graduate, and professional schools and universities inside Temple. 40,000 students. You see, if you just think, if it was just a 4-year, just for easy math, if it was a 4-year college, that'd be 10,000 students a year graduate. As a matter of fact, that particular university turns out more professional people in the state of Pennsylvania that stay in the state of Pennsylvania than any other university. You see, here's a man who had an impact. That undergraduate and graduate and professional are a lot like the levels of Jen. You start somewhere and you build, and you can continue all the way to level 12 to enhance your education. Now, when a man who founds a university and understands the value of an education talks about the school of hard knocks and the life of hard knocks, you should listen, because there's book learning and there's life experience, and when you can meld those two, you have the greatest chance at success. I'm a huge fan of education. I'm also a huge fan of life and of paying attention. of paying attention. You see, the story goes that he started that university as a result of a young lady who'd heard his lecture. The Acres of Diamonds lecture, he did over 6,000 times all around the world. And one young lady made a donation for him to be able to start a school, and that donation was 57 cents. The pocketbook that she gave him was 57 cents. And from that 57 cents, he converted it into 57 pennies. And then he had an auction where he auctioned off those pennies as the beginning stones, if you will, for the foundation of a school that he wanted to start. And those 57 pennies turned into $250. And that $250, he bought a lot. And the first payment he made on the lot was 57 cents. And as a matter of fact, 54 of the 57 pennies were returned to him. They're now on display there because it wasn't about the money. It was about the concept. It was about the energy. It was about the school. It was about a university. It was about building a temple, which later became Temple University. So from 57 cents to have a university that now educates 40,000 students a year is quite an accomplishment. It's quite an accomplishment. And it's quite a legacy to leave behind. And that legacy was built upon the concept of frequency and vibration. He obviously was a big thinker and had a great frequency and a great vibration about him. Do you? Are you working on your vibration? Are you working on your frequency? Are you working on your ability to send and receive and surrounding yourself with like-minded people? I hope so. That's our goal in Gen. And we're proud and honored that you're a part of the Global Information Network. I'm Dr. Tom. That's it for this Friday. I'll talk to you next week.